How does it feel for me? Sophia, April 2023, Part 1. Warning: this audio contains someone talking about suicide. Can you talk about when you started to become very unwell at the end of February?
My care coordinator had realised that I was not doing very well, and she set up a meeting with crisis team to talk about options like Oasis. I didn't go to this meeting because I knew that options like Oasis weren't an option, so I didn't want to get my hopes set up for now, because basically what has been said before is the crisis team have turned around and said, oh well, last time Oasis escalated the risk, and when really what had happened is that last time I was at Oasis, I was just too unwell to even be at Oasis. I should have just been in hospital. So during this time, sort of just after that, my behaviour was quite chaotic. Like, I was just travelling around to random places, and I got quite paranoid about things, and I was drinking all the time, like just walking around late at night, and I got attacked, and yeah, a load of things happened. At some point, I ended up climbing up to a rooftop, and then ended up getting arrested, um, taken to police custody, obviously not charged, and then 136 straight from police custody and taken to the 136 suite.
What was your experience of the 136 suite?
Like, when I got there, I was exhausted because I'd been in police custody, and nobody had offered me any food. Nobody had introduced themselves to me. I was quite confused, and the doctors came in to assess me literally about half an hour after me getting there, and I just dropped off to sleep because I was knackered. And then the next minute I woke up and there was like 5 people standing around my bed, and then one doctor sat really close to me, and I think the majority of them were all male as well, and that freaked me out. So they couldn't assess me because I was freaking out and shouting at them. If they'd have read my records properly, they would have realised that I feel very unsafe around men. So the second time was better because it was 2 females and 1 male. And what helped is that they sat down a little bit, like on the floor. So then they weren't like looking over at me like from a height. It felt less confrontational. But then the doctor was asking me how I was feeling. I said I was feeling like violent and angry. And he just turned around to me and went, oh, well, I'm going to write that in your record, as if it was a threat. They said, oh, what do you think should happen now? And I said, oh, I think you should let me go so I can go and kill myself like I wanted to. They basically turned around and said, okay, go on then, you can go. Then they offered me some food, booked me a taxi, and then when the taxi arrived, I wasn't given any notice, so the taxi arrived, and then suddenly this nurse barged in and was like, you need to go now. They gave me my stuff, but it was obviously all in a evidence bag. And I said to the nurse, I just want to look through this bag and organise it so I know that I've got everything, like my house keys and my phone charger and whatnot. And this, I don't know if it was a nurse or a healthcare assistant, big fella, 6 foot. He cornered me into a corner and started raising his voice at me, saying, "No, you had to leave. Get out, get out." And it made me panic because I wouldn't want to get stranded without my keys. So I went in the taxi with my evidence bag and had a panic attack. And the taxi driver had to knock back on the door of 136 suite, get a nurse to come out who gave me some lorazepam to calm down. And then she helped me look through my stuff, and lo and behold, my keys weren't in there. So that just added to my stress and made me feel like a piece of shit, really. And then, yeah, went home. And then the next morning, I think about 6 a.m. or so, I rung the crisis team, and I'd taken an overdose of paracetamol. And this woman on the phone was really rude. And she basically said to me, do whatever you like, we don't care. And then slammed the phone down on me, which I thought was quite unprofessional, really.
You then rang your GP and ended up at St James's Hospital A&E. What was your experience like there?
The paramedics that had spoken to me, they'd noticed that I was quite nervous around the male paramedic, and they'd voiced this to the doctor when I got to A&E. So then the doctor, she put me in like a side room, and she stopped the security men trying to come and touch me, like when I was trying to leave, because she said it was just aggravating things further. And obviously, you could see I was quite traumatized. And she also, so I was like laid on the floor because I felt safer on the floor, and she let me do that. And then, because I didn't want my bloods taken, not because I didn't want like a blood test or was scared of a needle, I was just scared of my response because I was feeling really like high rate and like I felt like I might lash out by accident. So I said this to her and she said, well, can we like pin you down? And I was like, well, you can, but like, can you not send any men? And she was like, sure. So she went and got her consultant, who was a female, and they both pinned me down so they could take my blood. So they like pinned me down with consent, I guess, which was good because I felt like they listened to me, and they also got what they wanted out of the situation without it escalating into a big kerfuffle. I don't know what made this doctor like. No, I don't know. I feel like this doctor was really like trauma informed. I don't know what training she's had or what, but she actually just really listened.
Thank you to Sophia for sharing her story.